All right. Okay. Just a couple of minutes more and we will start. Okay. So yeah, we'll start sharp at 5 exactly. And I'll walk you through the whole thing, of course, as we go ahead and see how this works. But yes, just wait for a couple of minutes. Okay. I have shared my screen. If you guys can quickly give me a yes on the chat box, if you can see what's on the screen. Do you see the title of today's session? Can I get a quick yes if you guys can see what's on the screen? If you see the screen right now? Okay. Thank you so much, Hema. Yeah, perfect, Sakshi. Thank you so much. Ajay, if you're also there, you can just give me a yes if you can see the screen. All right, I believe he's there. Okay. All right. So I believe it's just a few more seconds and we shall start sharp at 5 p.m. All right. Hello, everyone. A very, very warm welcome to today's session. I'm very excited, to be honest, on what we are exactly going to discuss today. Of course, this is one of those sessions where you know a few things about the exam, particularly the GRE exam. Yes, but I'm excited for the fact that we are going to move towards something that could benefit us in a big way going forward. And so if we want to sort of prepare for something, if we want to know something, there's always that sense of excitement. So if people come with that sense of excitement to a session and I'm excited to sort of discuss things with them, it becomes a two-way process. Excitement versus excitement together makes the session even more interactive and more interesting. We'll try to keep the session really, really clear, apt. I will not be, taking a lot of your time. I'll try to keep things as simple as possible from my end. I'll also try to make sure that I cover as many things as possible during this session. Now, I would like to bring to your attention exactly what I will be discussing. So for us, for a minute, okay, I don't know if you really have understood, but if you look at the topic of today's session, okay, it says GRE Made Easy series. This is the first of our GRE Made Easy series that we've started with. And so this session is more like an introductory session of this Made Easy series that we'll be carrying forward. And we have many more sessions to come in this entire series, of course. But if you look at the title of today's session, it says everything you need to know about the GRE. The simplest way to look at it is, okay, this is going to tell me everything that I'm supposed to know about the GRE. That's one way to look at it, correct? But just for a minute, okay, look at the words that I have intentionally written in caps. If you read, I've written the word need in caps, I've written the word no in caps, and I've written the word GRE in caps. GRE, of course, is the exam. But I have particularly written the words need and no in caps for a reason. It basically means that if you need the GRE, you need the GRE as in you need the GRE score for something, right? You need to know the GRE. So need, know, basically are written in caps for a specific reason. If you want or you need the GRE score or you need the GRE exam, you need to know the GRE exam well. Okay, so today's session particularly is aimed at making you understand the GRE exam in a way. Maybe more importantly, I would like to focus more on the mindset of what you need to have as someone who's preparing for the GRE test. So at this point, my purpose is to make you understand the mindset you need to have when you're preparing for the GRE exam. Now, quick question, if some of you would like to give me a very quick response to, how many of you really know a little bit about the GRE and how many of you are absolutely clueless about the GRE test? If you know about the GRE a little bit, say yes. If you have absolutely no idea, say no. Okay. So if I can get quick responses on the chat box, please. If you know a little bit about the GRE, say yes. If you have absolutely no idea, say a no. Quick responses, please, on the chat box. I'll highly appreciate. Okay, I've got 2 responses. They say yes, they know a little bit about it. Okay. Any more responses on this? Anyone who's absolutely clueless about this exam has come for the first time ever to a GRE session? Okay, I believe, I guess I'm not getting more. Oh, Nitika has raised her hand. Raising your hand means you know it or you don't know it, Nitika. So that's the reason I asked you to put it on chat box. Chat box means you can say yes if you know it, a bit about it, or if you have no idea, you can say a no. Either ways. Okay, I want to just understand how many of you really know this test. In case you don't, any which way I'm going to cover things, but just wanted to get some responses on it. But anyway, thank you so much for those responses. All right. Now, basically looking at the GRE exam, okay? So some of the things that I want you to understand in particular with respect to this test is how exactly, we need to understand this exam. To begin with, what does this exam stand for? Or what does this stand for when I say the GRE? GRE basically stands for Graduate Record Examination. Graduate Record Examination. Now, this is a test you normally would like to write if you're planning to study abroad, right? But make sure you understand that when it says graduate, it actually means to graduate schools. Okay. So when you say graduate schools, mostly when it comes to our country, graduate basically means even for bachelors. If you finish a bachelor's, you'll still be considered a grad or a graduate. But when it comes to, countries outside, they mostly consider graduate as master's level or beyond master's level. So when you say the graduate record examination, in a way, this exam, the GRE exam, okay, is something that you actually write when you go for a graduate school, okay, or programs which are given to you by the graduate school, which are taught to you by the graduate schools, right? So when you go for a master's program or higher, basically a PhD program otherwise, these are the times when you actually write the GRE test. Okay, so basically this is a test that you'd write in case you want to go for a master's program or a PhD program. Now, why write this exam? Okay, this is another very important question. So for a minute, okay, let us say that you guys are applying to some university in some particular country, okay? And let's just say that the university has to look at your application. Now, you have sent your application with all the necessary documents. Let's say your mark sheets and XYZ other things. You've got a lot of things like your credentials, everything that you've done, all your accomplishments, everything, okay? You send it in one application and that goes to the university. Now, the university has received the application in front of them. Now, what is the university admissions committee going to do to it? Like, for example, if I'm admissions committee and I want to offer admission to you, what is it that one thing that I'm supposed to be looking at, or what are those things that I'm supposed to be looking at before I can offer admission to you? So in short, somewhere I'm supposed to have something in my application, right? So there are 3 things we can look at. One is your academics. So one of the things that is important in your application is academics. One is, of course, the kind of domain competence you have. Domain competence particularly refers to competence of a particular skill that you, let's say, have developed. Now, over a period of time, for example, let's say you're a student of computer science, or if you're a student of some other subject, okay, your competence, right, domain competence should be revolving around that particular subject, right? So that becomes more of a domain competence. And then there is a third thing, right? The third thing that you're supposed to be looking at is basically something more related to your life skills. Okay, there are 3 things. So we just repeat this: academics, domain competence, and life skills. Now, out of these 3 things, okay, out of domain competence, academics, and life skills, the GRE exam will add a lot of value, or it boosts particularly your academic competence. So if you're somebody who has, let's say, a very good CGPA, fantastic, no problem. But if you have a very good CGPA and a slightly low GRE score, it again does not show that you're academically capable enough because you come from some X university. Okay, there are so many universities in India, right? And of different levels, right? So I cannot say that a CGPA that I have in let's say Delhi University is equivalent to the CGPA that I will have when I study at Mumbai University or Pune University or some other university. So the CGPA per se cannot be the only standard measure, right? So in order to bring every single person, okay, who's applying to these schools abroad, right, the University Admissions Committee wants to have one standard academic measure. So beyond your CGPA is something they look at, yes. But apart from your CGPA, they want to know your academic competence. The only thing they look for is the GRE. So the GRE in a way adds value to your academic competence. Okay, so out of the three things we've talked about, the academic competence, your domain competence, and your life skills. Okay, out of these three things, GRE primarily adds value to your academic competence. So your academic bracket can be boosted through a GRE score. So if you got a fantastic GRE score, it automatically boosts your academic competence. So if you feel that my CGPA is great, wonderful, make sure your GRE is great as well. But if your CGPA is not that great and you wish to push it, maybe GRE can become that way for you. A good GRE score will automatically make your academics look very, very good. So the basic idea is, why write this exam? In order to make sure that your academics can be boosted. That's one simple reason why you write the GRE test. Keep this in mind, and I think that becomes easy for you to understand going forward. Now, what skills will be tested? Basically, let's just think for a minute. When I ask people about the GRE test, or generally speaking, when people talk about the GRE prep, one of the most common doubts, or one of the most common things people talk about is, my English is not wonderful, or my language skills are not fantastic. Okay, your language skills are not fantastic, so what? So they say my language skills are not great, so which means my GRE is not going to be great. I won't score well on the GRE. So somehow this mindset people have is, because my GRE scores are not great, somewhere the reason for that is my language skill. Like if my English would have been stronger, my GRE score would have been better. Sorry, you are absolutely mistaken there. There is no need for you to think that way. The skills which are being tested on the GRE are more logical reasoning based skills, analytical skills, right? So you are supposed to have higher order reasoning skills. So when there are reasoning skills and analytical skills being tested, in such cases, language only becomes a medium. So please understand that GRE is not something that is only about a language per se. English is a universal language to a great extent. So somewhere the exams that are made in English. But please understand that because it's made in English doesn't mean your English is being tested. It just becomes a medium. Like I can make the GRE exam in any language on this planet. I can make GRE exam in German. I can make GRE exam in French. I can make GRE exam in Hindi. I can make GRE exam in any regional language. What will change is the medium. But please understand, because English is a universal language, so the medium is English, but what is being tested is not your English skills. What is being tested is your reasoning skills, your analytical skills. So when you're focusing on preparing for the GRE, please make sure you work on your reasoning skills, your analytical skills, but not the language skills. Your language skills is something, of course, develops over a period of time. But to say that merely my language will determine whether or not I'm going to get a great score on the GRE, you are making wrong comparisons there. Okay, so do not have this mindset that it's about the language. Okay, now coming to this mindset part. A while back, when I looked at this particular title, I said, look at need and know and GRE. It did talk about the mindset in a certain way. Certainly, like somewhere, if my mindset is clear and I know what I'm preparing for, then I will not make more mistakes on the test, especially during my preparation. And of course, if my preparation goes well, even my exam goes well. So somewhere my mindset needs to be very, very clear. So you're preparing for the GRE test, please make sure that you are absolutely clear in your head that you are preparing for this, whatever this analytical skills are that I'm preparing for that. I'm preparing for my reasoning skills, but that's about it. Keep your mindset absolutely clear. I do not think you will struggle on the preparation part or on the test day as well. Okay, so we'll talk further now about some of the sections. If you already know about this, please stay patient because maybe some of the other people may not be 100% sure about it. But I want to give some new insights on the GRE sections as well. Now, when I normally ask people, okay, how many sections are there on the test? Okay, so everyone says, so there are 3 sections. There is verbal, there is quant, and then there is AWA. Some people say that, which is perfectly all right. So there are 3 sections if you look at it that way. But if I talk about what skills are being tested a while back, as I talked about it, the GRE exam overall can be divided into objective and subjective. Let me show you how that is objective and subjective. Now, if you see on the screen, the part that says analytical writing. So there are 2 analytical writing tasks, each lasts for 30 minutes. Now, this analytical writing task is the very first part of your exam. So when you start your GRE test, you start with the analytical writing assessment, which is the first task on your exam. So there are 2 questions in it, and each question, right, for you to attempt, you get 30 minutes in which you plan and write a response. And this is more of a writing task, but requires analytical skills and that you can use to write. Okay, so first you analyze and then you write. So it requires a combination of 2 things, analysis plus writing. Now, this is the first thing on the exam. Okay, so when you're doing the first section on the GRE, okay, you're actually being tested on subjectivity. Let me tell you how. So on the analytical writing assessment task, you're given 2 questions, as I said. Now, if you look at those 2 questions, they're very generic. They are based on something very generalized or more hypothetical in nature. So these are 2 questions which are given to you. On each question, you are supposed to write a response that is subjective in nature. Let me tell you what subjective means. When I ask people what subjective means, a lot of people answer that subjective means lengthy answers. I don't know why they say that, but mostly this is what I get from the other side. They're like, okay, what do you mean by subjective section? So they say back in school, subjective section was where I had to write lengthy answers. I think that's a very common response I get. But let's be very clear. Subjective does not mean lengthy answers. Subjective means you exist. Let me make you understand what you exist means. If I give you a very generic statement like, let's say that depending too much on technology can make humans lazy. Depending too much on technology can make humans lazy. It's a generalized statement. It's not necessarily focused on one community, person, whatever. It's a general statement. Now, you can agree with this or disagree with this. Your position can be different, and therefore your responses can be different. But it comes down to what you believe. So if I believe that this statement is something I wish to support, I can write accordingly. But if I do not agree with this statement, I can disagree with it and write my response accordingly. Can I say the one who agrees has done a better job than someone who disagrees? No, I cannot. Because when subjective is or subjectivity is being tested, in subjectivity, you can't say one response is a perfect response. It varies from person to person. Everything is subjective in nature. Subjective means it comes down to what you believe is right. Of course, you need to back it with logical reasoning. You need to give reasons, examples, all of that. Yes, but it is purely your subjectivity that you display through your response. That is basically what analytical writing is all about. And this is the first section on the test. 2 questions in this, as I said. Each question lasts for 30 minutes. You need to have a subjective thought process in that. Make sure you plan a response and then write a response within the 30 minutes that are given to you. And we can talk on and on about it, of course, but some other time. Okay, but at this point, I just wanted to give you an overview of it. So the overview is first task, subjective in nature, analytical writing assessment. 2 questions, both of which are purely subjective in nature. You explain things logically with reasons, examples, yes, but it is purely subjective in nature because there is no one answer one perfect answer choice. It's basically one that varies from one person to another. Okay. So you can give responses accordingly. That done, then move to the objective section of this test. Now, objective section basically is made up of verbal reasoning or quant reasoning. Now, this verbal reasoning is what mostly people misunderstand as English. I won't be surprised if someone comes and tells me that on GRE, my problem is verbal reasoning because my English is weak. 9 out of 10 people might say this, and I won't be surprised. Some people are already aware of it, so that's even better, fantastic, no issues. But if you're not aware of it, this is that section, the verbal reasoning section, which people think is all about English. Anywhere in the entire sections that you see on the screen, does it say English? You can say verbal reasoning, it says quantitative reasoning. They don't write English there. It's not like verbal reasoning is written in place of English. No. Not that they want to call, not that they would like to address English as verbal reasoning. No. Verbal reasoning is based on reasoning. English is a medium. Quantitative reasoning requires your quantitative skills to be in place. Yes, but we don't want to call it math as such. We just call it quantitative reasoning. So the names that have been given to those sections have actually been given for a specific purpose. There is a reason behind it. So we need to make sure that we stick to it accordingly. Now, when it comes to the verbal reasoning and quant reasoning part, please understand that both these sections are objective in nature. Objective means what? Again, when I ask this question to people, what does objective mean? They simply say, because subjective means lengthy answers and objective is all short answer choices, which means objective means short answers. Not really. Again, it has nothing to do with the length of the answers. Whether you say subjective or objective, you more revolve around the length of the answers, not really. Objective means, so for example, there's a multiple choice question with 5 options, A, B, C, D, E, and you're supposed to pick one answer choice out of A, B, C, D, E. Now, let's say the question has an answer which is A. Now, whether you attempt it or 10 other people attempt that question, you need to be able to mark option A only to get that question right. Now, can I say that one person picks A, another person picks B, and a third person picks C, and I can say that all of them are right? No, I can't. Now, here in this case, when objective section is given to you, if there is one answer choice which is correct, it cannot vary from one person to another. Unlike in case of the subjective section, where the responses can vary from one person to another. But in an objective section, you cannot have an answer choice, which is what you believe works. You can't write or take responses or have a belief in responses that you think is right. That will not be the right way to think. When it comes to objective section, please make sure you realize that there is a specific evidence given to you in the question. There are conditions given to you in a question. And if I stick to that, and by the way, remember that the conditions and question is the same for everybody. So whether you attempt it or I attempt it or anyone else attempts it, if the question has the same condition and if it's got the same evidence, which means anyone who attempts that question must be able to stick to the same evidence, and only in that case will all of us get the same answer. If I go according to what I want is right and someone else goes according to their own viewpoint, then we'll have 2 different answers for the same question. But that's not possible when it's objective in nature, right? So that's again a fundamental difference. So your mindset, okay, when you're preparing for a verbal section on the GRE or quant section on the GRE, should be objective, with objectivity in mind. Stick to the evidence. What's given is what exists. If I stick to that, I get my answers right. On the other hand, if I'm given an AWA section, I know it's subjective in nature. I can use my subjectivity. I'm going to keep my approach accordingly. So my approach depends on the nature of the sections. If my approach and my mindset is clear and I know what the sections are all about, I will prepare accordingly. So we need to be very, very clear when it comes to the nature of the sections and the mindset that we need to have to attempt those sections. Simple as that. So I hope a few things are clear to you so far when it comes to the GRE sections overview. Okay, going forward, another very, very important thing that probably some of you understand, probably some of you don't. Now that we understood that the overall GRE test is divided into objective and subjective. So if you see the analytical writing assessment part, has a different scale score, which is out of a 0 to 6. Versus if you see the verbal reasoning and quant reasoning, the section scores, I mean, you can see that the range of scores is different. On verbal reasoning, the score range goes from a 130 to 170, which basically is like a 0 to 40. Similarly, a quantitative reasoning section, again, 130 to 170 is like a 0 to 40, which simply means that if you don't attempt a single question, you leave everything unanswered, you will still get a 130 out of 170, which basically means that if I leave like all the questions unanswered on verbal and quant, that basically would mean I'll get a minimum 260 out of a 340. That's the basic idea there. But please understand that 260 out of 340 is actually a no score. 260 is actually a 0 in short, right? When it comes to the analytical writing, however, you can see that the scale of scoring is different. It's from a 0 to 6. That's primarily because the nature is different. Verbal and quant are objective. So the sections are scored together and the scores are combined in a way. They're added. But when it comes to analytical writing, because it's subjective in nature, it is separately scored. Hence, an analytical writing score is never added to your score out of a 340. So the score range of 260 to 340 basically is about your objective sections, and a score out of a 0 to 6 on AWA is what covers your subjective part of the test. Hence, the scoring is done separately on both. They're never added. Okay, so that's another very, very basic idea that you should have when it comes to how the scoring is done and why it is done the way it is. Okay, here I must mention though that on the entire GRE test, there is no negative marking. There is no negative marking. You need to attempt all the questions. You have to attempt all the questions. Of course, you're going to go wrong, right? But because there is no negative marking, it's not going to harm you. You make sure that you attempt as many questions as possible. Okay, so keep in mind, attempting as many questions as possible is the right way to go about it. Of course, making mistakes can happen. We will talk about that as we prepare for it. Of course, we'll work on our weaknesses and strengths, and I think it should be taken care of. Okay, moving to some very important discussion that I wish to have today. So far, okay, of what I was discussing with you, so far I was trying to discuss everything around the mindset. We talked about how the GRE test has certain sections and how there is a specific mindset I need to have for the objective part of the test, how I need to have a separate mindset for the subjective part of the test and prepare accordingly. But one of the major problems that I always want to, address is the vocabulary. I have a question for all of you. If you can respond to it on the chat box, I'll be more than happy. How many of you know this word? I think I'll just type it on the chat box. If you wish to participate, please do. Okay, I'm putting it on the chat. You need to tell me the meaning of this word. Okay. Rajvi, you've raised your hand. You have a question? Rajvi, you have a question? You raised your hand there. Okay. No problem. Okay. You look at that word on the chat box. Can everyone see that word on the chat box? All of you see that word on the chat box? Can all of you see the word engaging? Yes? Can I get a quick yes there, please? Oh, okay, wait. Let me, okay, you're unable to. All right, let me just simply ask you this question. The word engaging, okay, you need to answer. I mean, wherever you can answer this, okay, just answer this question. What does the word engaging mean? Have you heard of this word engaging, Emma? Engaging. If you can just chat it, you can just write your response in that Q&A box as well. It works for me, no issues. If you can just write your response on the Q&A box, what does the word engaging mean? Engaging. Have you heard of this word engaging? I would appreciate if you guys can respond real quick because I have a few things to cover. No? Indulge in some activity, to collaborate, to stay busy with something. Okay. It is an adjective. Okay. Yes. To stay busy with something. Okay. Okay. Any other response? To collaborate is one thing. Vinuha Chinta, right? You said it's an adjective. That's a part of speech, my friend. I get that. It's a part of speech, yes. But my question was, what does it mean? Like, what is the meaning of it? So some of them have already answered that. So Sania has answered as indulge in some activity, which is one way to look at it. Yes. Hema, you said to collaborate. Are you also, Hema, are you trying to suggest that to collaborate means to be a part of something? Are you referring to that? And Rajvi, you also said something about to stay busy with something. Okay. Okay. All right. I think generally speaking, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Hema. All right. Okay. So I think what I've understood so far is that all of us know this word engaging is probably one way to look at it is that, okay, being a part of something, right? But on the other hand, you also see this word engaging being used as something that's very fascinating. If something is an engaging activity, on the GRE, they tend to use it as something that's very fascinating also. I'll give you another very simple, I'll ask you a very simple question. Do you know the word cow? C-O-W, cow? What does cow mean? Okay, when I say this word cow, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Just be very honest. If I say the word cow, what is the first thing that came to your mind? When I said the word cow, what is the first thing that came to your mind? An animal, right? Absolutely, Rajvi. I think the first thing that comes to our mind is the animal, right? Okay, how many of you thought about the animal the moment I said the word cow? Or can you think of any other meaning to this apart from the animal, the word cow? Anyone who knows the meaning of this word apart from the fact that it's an animal? Okay, so let me break this for you. The word cow also, being apart from the fact that it's used to refer to an animal, cow also goes in a sense of intimidating or threatening someone, to scare somebody off. Now imagine the word cow, C-O-W, that we normally would think about an animal, probably would never think about the word cow as something that's referring to threatening or something that's related to instilling fear in people. Really cannot come to our mind, does it? I mean, when I think of the word cow, at least that's not the first thing that comes to my mind. Somewhere, when it comes to words, we know it in a certain way. When it comes to words, we probably, yeah, Sanya, that's a way to remember it. Coward is someone who's scared, Sanya. Coward is someone who gets scared. Cow means to threaten someone, to instill fear. So a coward can be scared of a cow. Let's keep it like that. A coward can be scared of a cow, or cow is not actually a noun, but generally speaking, cow refers to threatening or instilling fear in someone. Okay, so it's actually going a way to keep us, of course, we can remember this word in different ways. So Sanya, you can keep the word coward and keep the word fear in mind. And with fear, probably you can relate cow and say, okay, fear or something to do with related to fear. Maybe that is one way you can keep in mind. But having said that, the word cow does not come to us naturally as threatening. We don't think about it that way. So when it comes to vocabulary in general versus vocabulary on GRE, these are two different things altogether. So when you're preparing for the GRE exam, the vocabulary needs to be very different. It's not the same kind of vocabulary that you expect anywhere else. So please understand that the GRE specific vocabulary is different. So here I have a few points for you to understand that these vocabulary words could be very common sometimes, and these words could be a little on the advanced level, but the words per se are sort of suiting specific purposes and specific contexts. Now, the word cow for us is an animal, but in a specific context, when used as a verb, it can be used to show threatening. So we need to understand that the GRE specific vocabulary is very different from the general vocabulary that we know. So more importantly, when I ask people what is the meaning of a very simple word, sometimes they assume they know and they answer it. They actually think they use it normally, so they know the meaning of it, but they've been using that word in a wrong way. So for all this while, they know the meaning of the word, but it's actually not the right sense of the word. So please understand that there is a context behind every word usage. And I need to know what that context is. And it has to be GRE specific. And that's why I say that it's GRE specific vocabulary, not vocabulary in general. These are two different things. Therefore, we need to prepare ourselves for what is more GRE specific vocabulary. Now, here I want you to focus on this second last point. It says cluster method. So I'll just give you a glimpse of it. Okay, just give me a second. I'll share something with you guys just very quickly. Okay, this is just a random idea that I have. Can all of you see the Word document open on the screen? Very quickly say a yes if you can see it. If you can say a quick yes on the Q&A box. Okay, you can't see it, just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Just a second. Let me share this with you for a second. Okay, yeah. Can you all see a Word document on the screen right now? A quick yes on the Q&A box, please. All of you see a Word doc, right? Yes. So let me make you understand what I mean by a cluster. Okay, now I can learn words individually. There are different ways to learn words. I can give you the exact meaning of every word and I tell you to learn those words. Perfectly all right, not a problem whatsoever. Okay. But if I go with the exact meaning of a word, you just understood just a while back when we had that discussion. I think you understood that a word cannot have only one meaning to it. It has to be contextually understood. Like if I have to learn a word, I have to contextually learn the word, which simply means that if I'm learning words going forward for the GRE prep, I have to keep in mind that the words I learn are in the GRE specific context, right? So instead of trying to learn words in the exact sense, we can focus on something like this. Now, you can see it says group 4, promote or spread. That's basically the context, promoting or spreading something. It could be information, it could be an idea, whatever. Okay, so the information or idea being spread or promoted in a context, these words that you see under it, disseminate, distribute, circulate, propagate, diffuse, promulgate, proclaim. These words, by the way, if you go with trust me, if you just start looking for the exact meaning of these words right now on dictionary, you will see that there is a slight difference in the meaning of these words. But why do they come under one cluster? The one cluster that you see here are in a specific context. They could be used somewhat on the lines of spreading, promoting, sort of distributing the idea across. So somewhere, okay, I'm learning these words, not in the exact sense, but trying to know, okay, there is a specific way I know this word, but in a specific context, it can be used like this as well. So now all I'm telling you to do is I'm going to spoon feed you, for example, like this. I'm going to spoon feed you and say, listen, don't worry about the context. I'll give you the GRE context in the form of cluster words. Learn it as it is. Now, if I do this to you, what's going to happen is this cluster together is in my mind as something that's related to promoting or spreading. Instead of trying to learn one word at a time, which of course is a time-consuming process, it becomes easier this way. Okay. So I hope you were able to get that a little bit. Can I get a quick yes on the Q&A box if you got that point? A quick yes. All right, appreciate. Thank you so much. Okay, so my point here, guys, is that when I am sticking to a specific way of learning vocabulary, believe me, there are different ways you can do it. But when it comes to GRE specific vocabulary, you have to be very, very careful that the word grouping has to be done. The cluster method has to be used in a way so that it's more GRE purpose or GRE specific purpose that is being served, not something that you're trying to do in general. This grouping will not help you learn the words in the exact sense, but this will be enough for you to survive on the GRE exam. Believe me, vocabulary for us is something that will help us only survive on the test. There is one other very important point that I want to clarify here. If you're thinking that the GRE exam preparation is going to improve your vocabulary in and out, I'm sorry to say, I don't want to be, lying on a public platform. Okay. If you want to, improve your vocabulary, it's a very time-consuming process. You have 2 or 3 months to prepare. Let's be very realistic here, guys. If I have 2 or 3 months to prepare for the test, okay, I don't want to write my exam and get done with it. Do you think the amount of vocabulary you've not done all your life so far, you'll be able to finish it off in 3 months? I mean, this is a little unrealistic, isn't it? So if your vocabulary has to improve from the core of it, that's not going to happen in a matter of 2-3 months. Our purpose here is very, very clear. I want to survive on the GRE test. Vocabulary is a part that can trouble me, mostly troubles me. But if I am sticking to the GRE specific vocabulary and learn it only to survive on the test, and believe me, learn it only to keep in mind words in a specific context, you won't be able to get the exact meaning on the day of the test, but you will somewhat relate with the context. Even if that happens to you, you're still sailing through without any problem. But if you are trying to get into the actual detail of every single word, I want to learn it from the dictionary, then you have to become a wordsmith. And you wish to become a wordsmith, that's also not a problem, but it won't solve the purpose of GRE. The GRE is a completely different problem altogether. So general vocabulary and GRE vocabulary should not be clubbed together. Do not understand that these two as the same problems. They're not. They are different problems. So we need to stick to GRE specific vocabulary only in order to. Okay. So that's another thing. And yeah, this is the cluster again. You can see this cluster as well. Do you see this? Out of fashion, the words you see under it. Similarly, not useful, effective. Do you see that? Futile, unproductive, fruitless. Now this, what you see on top basically is like the context. If I want to know not useful, okay, something's not useful or not effective, not useful or not effective. That's what it means. So if something is not useful or not effective, what are the different words that can be related in this context? You can say ineffectual, ineffective. Ineffective, I think you always know. But what are the other words? There's futile. There's unproductive. We know that. Fruitless, unavailing, vain. These are the kind of words, ineffectual. So when you see these words, you know, okay, now I know these words as not effective or somewhat on the lines of not effective. So for me, that's the context. When I'm learning words, this grouping, this cluster method is extremely useful, especially on the day of the test. I wish I had more time. I would have even discussed a few other things, but there are things coming up tomorrow and one on Tuesday as well. So we have things lined up where I'm going to show you why this learning of vocabulary this way can help. I will be doing some strategy sessions tomorrow and on Tuesday. I think I'll be able to actually make you understand even better as to why this grouping of words is important on GRE. I would have told you to learn words one after the other also. But then there is a problem where I'm trying to get into actual details of every word. In the GRE sense, it may not help. So maybe in the next session and the session after that on Tuesday, I can actually crack this and help you understand why the grouping, why the cluster method helps. Okay. So anyway, that's one of the point. And now coming to the 320 equation, let me just make you understand and simplify this particular slide for all of you. So we've understood that this exam is out of a 260 to 340. We made that mathematics a while back. I think all of you understood how it is. Mangaraj Pujari. Mangaraj, you have a question? Buddy, you can give me questions. I mean, if you want to type it on the Q&A box, I'll be taking questions in a bit if you want to wait for a bit. If you can wait for a bit, Mangaraj, I can take your questions. Just give me like 5 minutes. I think I'll be taking your questions. Just about to finish. Okay. All right. So yeah, as I'm saying that there is a 320 equation. Now let me just tell you what this 320 equation actually means. Okay. So for example, like we understood that this is a test out of 260 to 340. I think that is pretty clear now to all of us. But when I'm looking at a 260 to 340 score, what is a good score? What is a score that gets me into good schools? What is a good score that gets me scholarships? What is a good score that helps me, improve my academic competence? Now, let's say somebody has a low CGPA. I told you, it can become a bit of a problem. So the person is always under this impression that, my CGPA is low. I don't think I stand a chance when it comes to good schools. Generally speaking, that's a question that everybody has in mind. Then I told you that the response is very simple to such a question. If you have that doubt, always remember, write the GRE test. I gave you the response to that. Low CGPA, not a great academic record. Don't worry, GRE is the response. GRE is the answer to that. GRE will do the job of boosting your academic competence. We understood that. Now, if your academics need to improve, you can improve if you have some time. But what will this 320 do to you? Okay, so 320 is a score which is considered to be a very good score when it comes to the GRE exam. So out of 340, anything that is 320 or 320 plus makes you somewhere sort of, it makes you be in contention even for good schools. Now, say for example, you're applying to some of the top schools or some very, very good schools. Okay. Somewhere this 320 score becomes a criteria. Not that they will say it out loud to you and they say, okay, you know what, you have to apply with the 320, otherwise we'll not give you admit. No, they won't say that to you. But when you actually look at the applications which go to these top schools, most of the candidates already sort of have a minimum 320. Some of them have a 325, 330 out of 340. So somewhere, okay, this 320 becomes a barrier that everybody who wishes to prepare for GRE wants to cross. They want to get that 320 score at any cost. Now, when they think about this, one thing, Mangaraj, you have a question? You raised your hand. Is it by mistake that you're raising your hand? You actually have a question, bro? I can take your questions, Mangaraj, but just in a bit, like I'm about to finish. But if you can type your questions on the Q&A box, please do that. I will see your question right away. Mangaraj, if you have a question, please type it on the chat box. I'll see your question and answer it right away. Okay? Type your response, I'll take it. Yeah, so so I was saying that when it comes to this 320 equation, everyone wants this score, but the question is, my English is not great, my verbal is not great, my vocabulary is not great. So much of cribbing happening around this whole thing, everyone comes and starts cribbing. There is no need for you to crib. There is a certain way you prepare. All you need is a bit of a planning. See, of course, any test has challenges. You can't say a test is going to be a cakewalk. If it's a cakewalk, it's not a test in the first place. So you cannot say that I have to have a cakewalk and my experience has to be really smooth and I want to get a great score. You won't. Any test you prepare for, you have to work hard. And this is just one step that you're taking. But when you wish to go abroad and study with some of the most competent people in the world, you are bound to face 10 times more challenges that you are currently looking at. So GRE is nothing compared to those kind of challenges in life. So please understand that there are problems, yes, but now we can realistically look at it. How many of you normally think your math is good? And I believe when I ask this question, mostly you prepare for the GRE exam, somewhere have the engineering, I think most of the people come from the engineering background. So how many of you here are from the engineering background? Can you say a yes on the Q&A box if you come from engineering background? Say yes if you come from an engineering background. Okay, Sakshi, you come from some other background. Okay, no problem. I'll address your problem as well. Anyone who's, okay, let me put it this way. How many of you are very comfortable with math? Like your math is okay. Like, and I'm talking about 10th class math. 10th class math. How many of you are comfortable with that? 10th class maths? Comfortable? Come on. Are you telling me that your 10th class math is not something you're comfortable with? See, even if you're not comfortable with it, it's not like anyone's judging here, but generally trying to understand. Mangaraj, I'll be teaching verbal reasoning. Okay, that's what I'm trying to crack here. Okay, so Sakshi, you're saying it was better in class 10th, but now you don't know. Okay, never mind. But I think Sakshi, if you were good in class 10th, that means it wasn't like you were very, like you were struggling with it or something, right? You were okay with it. You were okay with it. Of course, you would like to improve, but that's really not a problem. Okay, irrespective, okay, considering all whatever you have said so far, I think one thing is very clear. Mostly 10th class math is something people are comfortable with, or even if you're not, if you're given a bit of revision, you become comfortable with it more often than not. So once you become comfortable with it, mark my words, follow the basics as it is. Okay, I am not talking about becoming someone with an IQ of 160, 170, 180 IQ. I'm not talking about that. I'm just telling you to stick to the basics. Mark my words, if you stick to the basics and do the basics right, 165 on quant is pretty much in your reach. I can write it and give it to you that it's not going to be a big problem. Of course, if you're someone who's scared of math, okay, you have that phobia in mind, like, okay, my math is not good at all. I'm scared when I look at math questions. So in that case, what happens is obviously that fear takes over everything else. But believe me, with more practice, people and Indians particularly have been able to very easily reach that 165 mark. Okay, so this quant 165 is not something that is unrealistic. It is something that you can reach if you do some basic things right, stick to a plan, stick to the curriculum well, you should be able to get at 165. Now, this is out of 170, of course, you know the score range, we've already talked about that. In verbal, okay, again, I did not write over there that you're going to get a 170 on 170. I could have said 170 on 170 is possible. You'll get it. It's absolutely there for you to take. I told you a while back, there is no need for me to make any tall claims. I am here to show you a realistic picture. Do the basics right in verbal. And I am going to discuss those basics with you in the next few sessions that I am doing in this series. Let me remind you that this is the first in the series. Tomorrow, we are doing a strategy session, which is again related to this verbal section particularly. And there's one more strategy session that I'll be doing on Tuesday, if you wish to join that as well. In that, again, I'll be doing strategies. It takes time for you to understand strategies in the verbal section. A bit of time to understand the strategies. But once you're clear with the strategies on verbal section, again, mark my words, you merely stick to the basics, you are going to get that 155 in verbal as well. Now, if I combine the two, merely by doing the basics right, by not having any advanced level of IQ, you're still getting a 320 on the GRE, you become somewhere, you come into contention when it comes to good schools. As I said, you become eligible for good schools any which way. So somewhere, okay, it is all about sticking to the basics, and this becomes a realistic number. So when I say 320 is a number that everyone wants to chase, you know why? When everyone wants to chase something, what it actually is? It's actually a number that is realistic. No, if the entire crowd is going behind something, which somewhere means that it is realistic. If it's unrealistic, the crowd won't go behind it. But when I'm trying to go behind something, I know that it's in my reach, or at least I can get there, which means it's realistic, and therefore I'm trying to chase it, correct? If 320 is a number that can be chased, and that's why everyone is trying to chase it, and it's doable, then I believe you guys are no different. You should be looking at it the same way. If it's doable, stick to the basics and get that 320 any which way you can. And I believe in one simple thing: stick to the basics, stick to the ideas, strategies, but by hook or crook, get it right. As simple as that. So we're going to stick to a specific plan strategy. I would like to talk more about it, but sometime we have sessions planned for that. But yeah, the stages of GRE prep very quickly. We would like to start with classroom, which basically is going to be about your foundation and understanding of concepts. Here I would like to come in, okay, that when it comes to foundation and understanding concepts, initially you spend at least 4 or 5 sessions on building strong foundation. If your foundation and understanding of concepts is strong, the next step would be applying those on topic-wise drills and doing analysis of that, and then moving on to full-length tests with again analysis, and then the D-Day when you write your test. So it actually moves this way, starting from the foundation to topic-wise drill practice to full-length tests to all the way moving on to the D-Day where you write your test and get that 320. Don't forget the number, right? So somewhere it is about the way you plan your prep, stick to the basics, stay a little disciplined. God bless you. You are going to get a score. Mangaraj, you have raised your hand again. You have a question, my friend. Sir, I didn't understand about this. What about which part, Mangaraj? About this particular slide? Are you talking about this slide, Mangaraj? You can clarify. I didn't understand what. I mean, if you can clarify, is it about this particular slide or the previous slide? Please mention it. Okay, this particular slide. Okay, so basically, Mangaraj, what I'm trying to make you understand here is that when it comes to the stages of preparation, when you're preparing for the GRE exam, you start first with the classroom where you focus mainly on building the foundation and concepts of verbal reasoning and quant reasoning, of course. Once that is done, you move to the next step where you have topic-wise discussions. Topic-wise means, for example, in the verbal section, there are different topics on which you need to make so for example, in the verbal section you have some questions which are based on filling the blanks. Then there are some questions which are based on solving reading comprehension passages. Okay, these are two different topics. Now with every topic there are specific areas where you struggle. We need to understand, are you doing well on each topic or not? So it needs to be analysis at that micro level. Every topic overall has some subtopics in it, correct? So at every subtopic, I need to be analyzing thoroughly if that subtopic is going well for me or not. In the overall sense, it is going to make a difference. So from a micro level, I'm going to start moving. So from classroom where I make my foundation very, very clear, understand the concepts thoroughly, then move to topics one after the other at the micro level and understand things thoroughly. Once I've done the analysis of every topic and subtopic, and I'm doing well on them, then I move to more timed full-length tests where I'm going to do everything together, like I will do a proper exam, like the main exam. In the main exam, of course, everything will come together, right? It won't be topic-wise, right? It's all going to come together in a mixed bag, correct? So when you do that, when you prepare for full-length tests, you again automatically become quite clear as to whether or not you can sit for so long. It's an exam which lasts for close to around 3.5 to 4 hours, including the break in between. So that's basically the amount of time you'll be sitting for. But somewhere if you practice the full-length tests and analyze them thoroughly, your stamina also becomes better when you sit for longer tests over and over again. It's a rigorous process initially, but once you get used to it, on the D-Day, on the day of your exam, you will be able to score well. So so it's like moving from one step to another. Directly some random preparation from XYZ sources and going and writing an exam doesn't give you scores. I think generally speaking, when you want scores, have discipline, have a particular plan in place, and plans can be customized according to a person's availability. So for example, some people are absolutely busy during the day. They would like to prepare differently. Some people are busy during some other time. I mean, everyone has a different schedule. So accordingly, the plans can be made, but that comes much later. But there is a specific plan and preparation that goes into getting the score, but it has to be done in a systematic manner, in a methodical fashion. You just cannot randomly prepare and get scores. It won't work. So we have to have a specific plan in place and a preparation in place. I think that should serve the purpose. All right. So that's basically what we are trying to do here. Now coming to what I am, who I am. So my name is Rohan. I prepare students for the GRE exams. We basically at AECC have launched our GRE prep. It's going to be a comprehensive preparation. I have been involved in this with this particular test prep for a very long time. It's been close to a decade that I've been training students on GRE, GMAT, and for exams. But yeah, I mean, what I wish to do at the end of the day is make a difference to your life if you're preparing for the tests. It's very simple. I have a very, very simple agenda in life. You come to me for preparation. I just want to make sure that we are able to give some sort of a preparation or plan for you to do as well as possible, okay, on your exam. But it cannot happen with randomness. It cannot happen with some, irregular preparations. No, it can. There needs to be discipline. There needs to be a systematic approach. Things have to be planned well. If you do it, you get it. And believe me, at the end of the day, it has to be a no-nonsense approach. I don't know if you understand what no-nonsense means. I'm sure you would like to know what it is. No-nonsense means I do not want to take 10, 15 different ideas in front of me and start thinking, okay, I've got 15 ideas here. I want to try all these 15 ideas and see which one is going to be more effective on my test prep. That's nonsense. Because if you have so much in front of you, you are hardly able to make a decision. It's going to make you more confused. Preparation has to be one simple way, go about it, stick to it for a while and get done with the job, guys. Honestly, at the end of the day, I just wish all of you the very best. My job was to give you some insights about this. But yes, tomorrow, I'll be doing a more specific session, which is related to the verbal section. In the verbal section, I'll be focusing on something called the text completion kind of questions where a vocabulary becomes an issue. We'll try to decode that tomorrow. So my agenda in tomorrow's session is going to be about giving some glimpse of strategies and what I mean by strategic approach to solving questions. How can life become easy when I have strategies in place? So that was it from my side as far as the session is concerned. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. God bless all of you. I hope you guys prepare well and eventually get to good schools. But yeah, now I'm open to Q&A. Any questions you guys have, I'll be more than happy to answer. How many marks does mathematical questions contain? Sakshi, you saw that slide, right? You want me to take you back to that slide? Sakshi, you remember this slide? If you're there, can you just quickly say a yes? You see this quantitative reasoning I showed you 130 to 170, which is basically mathematics. You see it now? So that basically, Sakshi, is 130 is 0, 170 is 40. Score range is 0 to 40. So you're basically being scored on a 0 to 40 or 40 marks. Okay, it's a score out of, so just understand it's a 40 marks for quantitative reasoning, which you generally consider as math. And verbal reasoning is again 130 to 170, it's a 0 to 40. So it's like 40 marks plus 40 marks overall. It's a, like if I combine the verbal and quant together, as I said, objective section of the test is out of 80 marks. Simplest way to understand. It's out of 80 marks. Is that okay, Sakshi? You need more clarification? Any other questions? Any questions? Anything? I'll be more than happy to answer. The session was quite insightful, so thank you. Oh, Rajvi, that's very sweet of you. Thank you so much for the response there. I really appreciate, man. I hope I was able to answer. But again, Rajvi, if you wish to attend 2 more sessions, tomorrow I'll be doing a strategy session on SC and one strategy session on reading comprehension on Tuesday. Okay, it will be again pretty much at the same time, 5 p.m. onwards. You'll be shared with the links and everything. If you wish to join those, you can register for those sessions as well. One is tomorrow at 5 p.m. and one is on Tuesday. Okay, and there'll be more strategic sessions. We'll be doing a few questions, a few exercises. Those exercises will give you a better idea on how to approach, of course, yes. But it'll be more verbal specific because verbal is normally a problem for people. So if you wish to attend those, I'll be happy to address your issues as well there. Rajvi. So anyone else also, I mean, all of you are invited for tomorrow's session and the session on Tuesday as well, to give you more strategic approach, right? That's basically the agenda. Any more questions, please? I'll be more than happy to answer. Any more questions? Anyone, any questions? Oh, okay. So this, should we write IELTS before writing GRE? So Sanya, IELTS before GRE, Sanya, is like absolutely okay. Okay. Now it depends on. So if you can answer this, Sanya, when are you planning to write your GRE? And when are you planning to apply to universities abroad? If you can just give me a very quick idea on that, I can help you answer this question. You can write IELTS before or after GRE, by the way, because IELTS is anyway, it's sort of something that's so you're actually able to keep the IELTS score for 2 years. It's valid for 2 years. So Sanya, you write it before or after, it won't make a difference. But point is, normally what happens is, let's say Sanya, you start with a GRE prep. Okay, now suddenly this IELTS prep comes in between. Maybe it starts to become too much for you to handle. So if you don't want to handle 2 test preps at the same time, do one, finish that, and do the other later. Generally speaking, Sanya, if your English is relatively all right and you're okay with it, so IELTS will not take a lot of time, right? So comparatively, see, if you compare the GRE versus IELTS, I think GRE will obviously take more time to prepare compared to IELTS. No doubt about that. So if you want to prepare, I think maybe you can go for something that takes more time. Prepare for the GRE first, get done with it, and then write the IELTS after that. It still keeps you, I think you can still do it that way. And if you have some time to start your GRE prep, for example, let's say Sanya, you wish to start your GRE a little later, then in that case, maybe prepare for IELTS quickly and get done with it, have a score. Anyway, it will be valid for 2 years, right? And then start with your GRE prep. So depending on how you want to manage it, but if I take these 2 exams, I think comparatively GRE takes more time to prepare as compared to IELTS or even TOEFL or any of the proficiency tests. TOEFL, IELTS, all these are proficiency exams and they generally take more time compared to GRE. GRE takes more time compared to the proficiency tests. So I think that's the way it is. But how do you want to schedule it is the point. Like if you wish to go IELTS first, you have time before. So Sanya, if I may know, when do you want to start? You have not written IELTS yet, and after GRE, I want to write. Okay, Sanya, that works. Works. So ACC prep is online coaching, or you can have. See, we are at this point, trying to keep GRE online, where you can attend the sessions online. Yes, because we are trying to sort of address students who are available in different locations, right? So we don't want to have a batch size which is a lot. Like we'd like to have a minimum batch size. We can have multiple batches running on weekdays and weekends. We'd like to run it that way. Anonymous person, like I hope I can have your name there. So I can address you with your name. But yeah, my point here is that if you want to prepare online, we do cater to the online preparation. My job here is to make sure that we are able to cater to students who are attending from across India. At the end of the day, we all need to be available online these days, and virtual thing becomes one of the ways to reach out to as many people as possible, right? So we do have that in place. For in-person coaching, of course, if you wish to attend, then we will have to have a batch schedule for that. We do, plan that out as well in the future, depending on how many students we have. At this point, we'd like to have a GRE online going, which is one of the things that we are primarily focusing on, because we have students from different parts of India. So if you can see, actually, all these people who attended today's session actually are from different parts of India. Okay, so if they all want to attend my batch, right, I can't go to every place and do it, right? So one way I can do it is GRE online. So we are doing GRE online for now. Okay, but yes, we can plan out batches according to the volume of students coming in, and we plan batches on weekends and weekdays, both, depending on the availability of the faculty and students, both at the same time. Approach, strategy, all of that you will get to know in tomorrow's session and on Tuesday's session as well. Sanya, as I think I've answered your question. If you want to write GRE first and finish it off and prepare for that to begin with, please do that. Sanya, it should not be a problem. I don't think it should be a problem. Looking forward to the same. Rajvi, if you want to register, please. So you can see it on our ACC website. Okay, you can see the link for tomorrow's session and one session on Tuesday as well. Okay, you'll be able to attend both in a way. Right, you will actually be able to see the link on it. I mean, there's a page where you can see it. You can register for it. In case you don't get it any which way, all of you can leave your email IDs on the chat, on the Q&A box, so that we'll be able to mail you the link for tomorrow's session and for Tuesday's session also. Okay, you can leave your email IDs or even WhatsApp numbers. Okay, WhatsApp number will also do. See, for the commercials, honestly, I'm not the person to talk. You're asking about the fees. So I think, I think one simple way I can answer that question is I'm not someone who does the commercials. You'll have to come and talk to the concerned authorities who will do the commercial, who will deal with the commercials, right? I can only do the job of teaching and educating you guys. That's my job, right? I really am not someone who can take a call on that, right? There's a fee structure, of course. You can do that. You can meet out. All right. Also, Sania, you said, will ACC help in applying for GRE exam? Help in applying for GRE exam, Sania? I mean, does that mean on how to register for the GRE exam? Sania, are you saying how to register for the GRE exam? Oh, okay, yeah. So it's Sania, it's a very simple process. I mean, I can guide you. It's not a big deal. It's very, very simple. There is an official website. It's a very simple process. It's not a big deal at all. Okay. You'll be guided accordingly. So you need not worry. That'll be taken care of. Okay. If you guys wish to attend tomorrow's session and the session on Tuesday, please feel free to register. And more importantly, if you do not know where the registration link is, in case you want us to reach out to you, any which way you can send your WhatsApp number. We will be sending you the link of tomorrow's session and the session on Tuesday as well. Okay. So I think I've tried to answer as many questions as possible. I hope, able to address a few things, if not many. I really appreciate your patience. All of you, thank you so much for staying so long. I mean, we've already overshot the time because it's already 10 minutes late. But anyway, if there are any more questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. If not, then I think we'd like to sort of, end this session today. Anyway, I hope everything's all right. Yeah, in case you have any questions, please go ahead. Or that's about it, I think. In the Q&A box, if you wish to put it in the Q&A box, any questions? No? All right. Okay. Thank you very, very much. I truly appreciate your time. All the very best. In case you wish to join us tomorrow and on Tuesday, I'll be more than happy to address that. Okay. Thank you so much. Goodbye.